Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and with Nottingham Forest kicking off their first Premier League campaign in 23 years last weekend against Newcastle, I thought this would be a great opportunity to do a tactical breakdown of the match, where it went wrong for Forest in that 2-0 defeat at St James's Park. We're going to be talking about the formations, the shapes, the tactics and the key players for both teams on the day, as well as potentially how Forest can improve for their upcoming match against West Ham. So if you want to see more of those, let me know in that comment section below. And whilst you're down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the player profiles, these tactical analysis or the return of the match previews. And with that being said, let's start talking about Forest versus Newcastle. As you can see, we've got both sides here up on the board. Forest playing that 3-4-1-2, 3-5-2 hybrid that we predominantly played for the most of last season, and Newcastle playing that 4-3-3 that we mentioned in the preview video. Bruno sitting in the 6, Joelinton offering some attacking and defensive coverage, and Willock making these box-to-box late midfield runs that we were talking about in that preview. Now, in terms of stats, Newcastle dominated the proceedings, seeing around 62% possession compared to 38% from Forest. They took 23 shots compared to 5 from Forest and generated 1.67 XG compared to 0.3 from Forest. Generally a dominant performance from the Toon, and you can see why they came out 2-0 victors. And as we mentioned in this 4-3-3 shape, the midfield was going to be very important for Newcastle. This, as I mentioned, Bruno sitting in the 6, Joelinton sitting here, and Willock making the box-to-box runs into the final third. Bruno was really exceptional on the day, solid at helping break up play. Say Forest were coming forward, he was very good at just winning possession off the likes of Lingard and Brennan in that defensive midfield third. And his stats really profile this: 6 tackles and interceptions, 3 chances created, 5 passes into the penalty area and 6 progressive passes, consistently in the top 3 or 4 players in the Newcastle squad for the main metrics over the course of the 90 minutes. When Newcastle were forced into deeper positions by Forest, which was very rare, Joelinton was also able to come in and offer some more defensive coverage, very good at bringing the ball out from the midfield, doing those box-to-box runs that he was very good at under Eddie Howe last season, seems to be continuing from where he left off for Newcastle this season. And then Willock was really able to help overload the ball side. Say we've got the ball coming down here, Almiron playing predominantly off the right, so Maximin on the left, Callum Wilson through the middle. He was able to come in alongside the fullback, say Kieran Trippier here on the right, and just offer a bit more of an overload, create these last final third runs. He was able to sort of occupy a central midfielder, which just offered a little more space in the final third and in and around the box for the likes of Almiron and Trippier. Almiron in particular was very dangerous at doing these little 1-2s, making runs in behind, occupying these positions, coming into central areas. There was a very fluid front three for Newcastle, and Willock enabled that quite a lot by making these late runs into the box, as we can see here, and also just occupying players in the midfield and offering overloading on the ball side. Newcastle also very good at stretching us as a side, so Maximin and Almiron playing pretty wide in the side, Kieran Trippier and Matty Targett coming inside, not offering overlaps, which is what I actually personally expected to see from Newcastle, particularly Kieran Trippier is a very aggressive fullback, but is actually occupying quite a deep position for a lot of the match. We're seeing quite often this sort of almost like midfield 4 from Trippier, Bruno, Joelinton and Targett, where they were basically completely flatten out the midfield, overloading it, able to recycle play through those positions and stop Forest counter-attacking through the wide areas and force us into the central areas of the pitch. Willock obviously in a more advanced position, Wilson able to peel in between, make runs in behind, be a bit more of a target man, but the stretching was predominantly coming from the wingers, Almiron and some Maximin, and what it did was try and stretch the Forest defence out a little bit more, which does obviously create more space for these late runs from Willock. Obviously Wilson getting behind on the opposite sided winger, making inside runs, and they were predominantly trying to basically stretch us as wide as they could. And their shape defensively was also fantastic. If you look at things like passes per defensive action, Newcastle took 7, we took around 14, which means, you know, if you take that on face value, their press was twice as aggressive as Forest. And that was really a key theme. They were very good getting back into a good defensive shape out of possession, their fullbacks dropping in a bit more deeper, forcing us into central areas and preventing us from running into the channels where Forest are probably the biggest threat as a side, trying to get in behind with the likes of Brennan and Surridge, who are very aggressive runners looking to get into those channels. They were very good at funneling us into central areas where naturally they had that 3-man to 2-man advantage. O'Brien and Colback outnumbered predominantly for most of the match. Physically, not really a match for Bruno, Willock and Joelinton in that midfield as well, and they were very much dominated through the majority of the game, and I think that was where the game was lost for me, the midfield. We didn't have enough numbers in that position, and largely Newcastle's midfield was extremely dominant, extremely comfortable on the ball, and physically a mismatch to what we had. What about if we flip it the other way around though? How were Forest on the day? For me, I think we were actually all right. Henderson, probably the best player on the pitch, wearing red for Nottingham Forest, commanding of the box, coming for crosses, collecting, comfortable coming off his line, and generally probably the best performer for Forest on the day, like I've said. I actually think the defence as well wasn't too bad. I thought we were pretty good at getting into a compact back five shape. If you look at the situations in which Newcastle was sort of running at us, we did manage to get into quite a good, deep, compact back five shape, get the midfielders back as well. But there just didn't seem to be enough compactness in the side. I did seem to notice that Lingard, Brennan and Surridge were a little bit too far away from that defensive mid and low block, and it sort of left a lot of space in and around this sort of area of the pitch, sort of highlighting it with the ball, where the midfielders could sort of dictate the tempo. They could get these sort of long passes into feet. Joel Linton was very good at sort of receiving and just getting these fizz balls into the forward lines to try and create chances. And that was maybe the biggest, like I was saying with the midfield earlier, the biggest weakness of Forest was there just wasn't enough compactness and not enough bodies in the midfield where we could stop them from getting their chances on the ball. Maybe that's a product of the way we play, where we try to attack the channels or we don't really focus on central midfield play. But I think against Newcastle, it was maybe a bit naive to go in there with two central midfielders and really playing someone like Lingard, who wants to be very close to the forward line. Maybe he should have played someone like a Mangala in there, who could have just sat in a little bit more of a deeper position, congested the midfield a bit more, and made it a bit more difficult for Newcastle to play through us. As well with Forest, I just think we weren't good enough at getting the ball out from the back. Nierkaita playing basically as left centre-back, and Joe Worrell playing on the right. Scott McKenna sort of drifting into left-hand side positions, as well as sort of O'Brien would drop in there to receive the ball from deep. We weren't good enough getting the ball out from the back. There wasn't enough sort of receiving runs from the likes of Lingard, Brennan and Surridge. When we did get it into them, there wasn't enough support, and on their own they weren't really able to do too much. I thought Dan Burn especially was fantastic for Newcastle, playing on the left side against Brennan. Brennan is not an easy customer to play against. He's quick. He's actually quite a big guy as well. He's a clever runner on the ball, but I thought Dan Burn did a very good job at shepherding him into wider positions where he's not going to be as effective on the ball. He wants to be making those inside runs. He wants to be getting into the box, but Dan Burn's positioning in general is fantastic, and Matt Targett as well was very good at just sort of shepherding him into wider positions when he did get the ball. Much the same for Sam Surridge with Fabian Schär and Kieran Trippier on the other side. So what do Forest actually need to do going into the West Ham game? Personally for me, I would maybe look at shifting to more of a traditional 3-5-2 formation or shape, dropping the number 10 into the central midfield position, like I was mentioning earlier, potentially with someone like an Ora Mangala playing in this position, offering a little bit more positional structure in the midfield, a little bit more compactness. A team like West Ham, they're not as dominant on the ball as someone like a Newcastle. They're not going to see as much possession, I wouldn't imagine, but they've got very good players in and around these sorts of areas of the pitch, within the half space and central areas. And our idea needs to be to congest this area, force it into the wider areas where, of course, they're going to be less of a threat. Tactically, it's not the same as what we've been doing for Forest over the last sort of season under Steve Cooper, but I think you need to make these kind of adjustments on a game-by-game basis and take a sense of pragmatism into it and understand that a team like West Ham, very dominant in central areas, Mikel Antonio going to drop into that number 10 position if he plays, and it's going to be very difficult for us to control the game. So I think we try to sort of fill out that midfield and offer a little bit more running in behind, maybe Surridge dropping into a deeper position, maybe Lingard playing in that front two and playing as like a sort of one, and then a central striker, Brennan Johnson, where we can then get the legs in behind and sort of expose what is not the quickest defence from West Ham. So those were just sort of my general observations from the Forest v Newcastle game, a little bit about as well how we can improve going into that West Ham game on Sunday. Sorry if this video seemed a bit all over the place. I'm not used to doing videos that are a little bit less structured than potentially my match previews or player profile style videos, but hopefully you followed along with the key themes I was going along with Newcastle, talking about their ability in midfield, the way they dominated it, and their ability to stretch our back line. If you want to see more of these videos in the future as well, by the way, leave a comment and I'll be sure to get onto them in the near future, and also let me know your thoughts on the Newcastle v Forest game, especially if you were there. I'm interested to see what the live audience thought of the match. And whilst you're down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single Nottingham Forest player profile, tactics and transfers video, or the return of the match previews. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I will catch you Reds later.